From the DOJ to J6, former President Trump denounces the January 6th committee after it votes unanimously to subpoena him. He then writes a letter to the committee's chairman. Trump asked on Truth Social why the committee waited until it was about to wrap up to try and subpoena him. He says it's, quote, because the committee is a total bust that has only served to further divide our country. Chairman Benny Thompson said the committee recognizes how serious and extraordinary the step to subpoena Trump is and claimed that Trump's testimony would make sure, quote, nothing like January 6th ever happens again. The subpoena is unlikely to succeed since it will likely prompt legal challenges from former President Trump's attorneys. Trump addressed a letter to Thompson in response. His main points were that the committee is ignoring why so many people actually came to the Capitol in the first place, which was a belief the election was a fraud, and also that he called for putting the National Guard in place much sooner, but was rejected. The pandemic isn't officially over yet. That's according to the Biden administration, who is extending the COVID-19 public health emergency declaration for another 90 days. This means measures like high payments to hospitals and expanded Medicaid will continue for the time being. Health Secretary Javier Becerra announced the extension on Thursday. This is despite President Biden saying in an interview last month that, quote, the pandemic is over. Biden has asked Congress for $22 billion more in funding to prepare for a potential case surge this fall and winter. The Trump administration first declared the emergency in January 2020. It has been extended every 90 days since then. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission is moving to ban sales of new equipment produced by Huawei and ZTE. These two big tech telecom companies are based in China, and the FCC says the ban is to protect U.S. national security. The FCC's proposed ban signals a follow-through of one of Trump's last moves as president. Before leaving office in January 2021, Trump revoked licenses to sell technology to Huawei and rejected applications to supply the telecom giant. Earlier this month, FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel circulated an order with the proposed ban. If approved by the FCC, it would halt all new approvals of equipment from Huawei and ZTE. This would expand a current ban that only applies to federal funds. President Biden's new national security plan released earlier this week, acknowledging that China intends to reshape the international order. The Chinese communist regime has been plotting a global takeover since it took power in China in 1949. A new documentary by the Epoch Times outlines how the Chinese regime has carefully positioned itself for decades and now poses the biggest existential threat to the United States. Here's a look.
When you're losing a war and you don't even know you're in it, it's hard to get worse than that.
We have to become comfortable with the term warfare under our own roofs in our companies.
Confronting the CCP is the final war.
They have been systematically working since the day they took power in China to confront their number one enemy, the American government.
I thought it was a joke. I never thought it could become true now.
It is terrible.
Audience members viewed the screening last night at the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. Attendees told us that the film efficiently presented the complex topic and that it is crucial for mainstream America to learn about it.
I think this documentary that the Epoch Times did should be in every single schoolroom. It should be civics for the children of this country to know exactly what we're dealing with.
We are more enlightened now in terms of how CCP is fighting a war so surreptitiously and so patiently. But when I see this, it's basically slowly crippling down American economy, American power from underneath. So we definitely, everyone, both on Democrat side and Republican side, should unite to work to keep America strong.
The documentary will be available this November. You can find it on the epochtimes.com and on NTD.com. And last night at the screening of The Final War, we had a chance to speak with China expert and CEO of Black Ops Partners, Casey Fleming. Fleming, who was in the film, says the U.S. is and has been in an actual hybrid war with the Chinese Communist Party. He shared with us the importance of this film.
The key takeaways is that it's been going on for years since the CCP came into power, and the key takeaway is that every American really should take a look at this documentary. It's educational. It's in a short enough package. It goes long, but it goes short enough. But every American needs to see this. This is world history that's not being taught, but it's also world history that's happening today. This is in every American's living room. It's in every American's school, and it's happening on our watch. And it calls to action every American and everyone in the free world. It's the CCP against the free world for a full takeover. It's not a war with guns, bombs, planes, and troops and uniforms. It's a war that's in our living room, in our schools, in our companies, everything that we have to do business with. So, let me bring it even further home for you. Fentanyl comes from Wuhan, China. The largest illicit manufacturer of fentanyl is Wuhan, China, and they ship it to the western coast of Mexico called Michoacan, and they engage money laundering as well as distribution networks of those 6 Mexican drug cartels to get distribution through North America and eventually to Europe. So that's fentanyl. Now it's colored fentanyl to even go after our younger children. The other thing is TikTok. So you say, well, how's it happening? What's going on? TikTok is a weaponized military application in the hands of our children. So that's what the people need to gather from this. This is the story behind the story. You want to hear about TikTok? You want to hear about fentanyl? This is the story behind the story. Everybody knows over the past couple of years, something's not right. Something's shaky afoot. But nobody will tell us what the story is, what's really going on, who's pulling the strings here, because we know we as Americans are not pulling the strings. This documentary describes every bit of that.
So you touched upon multiple areas where the CCP seems to try to subvert the United States, and it all seems to boil down to the fact that we're an open society and that they're able to do that. China's closed off. Is there a way that our intelligence agencies or other democracies can counter this?
There is. Through being organized, we can innovate China very easily, but not when they're stealing our intellectual property every time we turn around. So it's going to take a massive educational effort. Again, this documentary does a fantastic job of getting everybody on the same page as far as what that threat is. But organization, pulling everybody together. What you want my personal opinion, I think the world is going back to World War II all over again, and you're going to see a decoupling. You're actually seeing China decoupling now and taking more of a war footing. They're decoupling from the rest of the world. They used Ukraine and Russia war as a trial balloon and what the world was going to do to react to that type of a war and what sanctions to protect themselves from. So by being organized and defending our values that we hold very, very, our values and our freedoms that we hold very dearly.
What would you say, or what would you like to see from the current administration in terms of taking harsher steps in dealing with the Chinese Communist Party?
My wish list for the current administration, go after all foreign investment and foreign anything that we have to do from the United States and the free world, any kind of foreign influence whatsoever should not be tolerated. We should have national security laws protecting that, as well as selling information from individuals, your privacy. There are all types of big data type of things that our laws have not caught up with from a technology perspective. So people need to understand that your information is your privacy. It's your information, and you should not just have to turn it away and turn it over to a big tech company who in turn sells it to the Chinese Communist Party to be weaponized against you now and at a later date.
Casey Fleming, thank you so much.
Thank you.